Yeah, so we have this neoliberalism, which has been built years ago, silencing progressive voices, just that they are the only option against right wing philosophy. Yeah, with the NGOification of political resistance, that they're essentially the liberals. The liberals are in Canada, they are masters at this, of taking political dissent and monopolizing it. So the NGOification is, here's a good example. Okay. In Canada, there's a huge push for UBI, Universal Basic Income. So there's all of these different political groups advocating for UBI. So then what did the Liberal Party of Canada do? They create a non-profit organization. Not them, but they're like cutouts. People who are associated with the party, but they're going to create this non-governmental, non-profit organization that's going to advocate for UBI. So then what that does is that it makes it so that every other political group that advocates for UBI then has to be associated with this main group who is like the main like advocator of it, like a lobbyist. And so it just creates this umbrella. So what they do is they're creating like a monopoly on political dissent. They do the same thing with electoral reform. They do the same thing with immigration. They are masters at it. And like the Democrats, especially in blue states, they're the masters at it too. But really, a lot of that, it comes from, it's like a liberal imperialist mindset that it's like the frontier has come home, essentially. But also what they do is they externalize the threat. Like the umbrella falls apart on different doctrines, so they use inflammatory rhetoric to keep the umbrella fighting itself. Yes, but what they also do, and that's what's happening right now, is they externalize the threat. Because if you externalize the threat, you're making leftists have to come together with liberals. So you're neutralizing the opposition. You're immediately neutralizing any type of radical opposition because you're making it so that, oh, you're the one with the resources. You're the political faction that has the resources. But then because there's these people who have no other option, people who are marginalized, people who come from like marginalized communities, people who are vulnerable either because they're in LGBTQ communities or they're immigrants or for whatever reason, they don't have any other choice but to align with liberals. Through that process of the NGOification, you are neutralizing any type of radical dissent. You're making it so that the political force that's pushing left ends up getting grabbed because the threat of the far right, you externalize the threat of the far right to consolidate the opposition. And that's what we're watching right here. These guys have been in power for fucking 12 years. And the reason that they've been able to do that is because of what I just said. By externalizing the opposition and then making them seem like the savior, because it makes it so that people like me, I have voted for this fucking party before because that's what they do. They externalize the conservatives to make it seem like you don't have any other option. That's what they do. That's the NGOification, the non-governmental organizationification of political dissent, where political parties themselves create, it's what's called astroturfing, where you create these political groups to cause this umbrella effect. And the more and more that the political discourse gets more and more extreme, the more and more that the actual left is incentivized to have to coalesce with liberal establishment politics.